in the sprawling, skybound city of Vera, where the clouds kiss the rusted underbelly of floating buildings, life is a constant hum of machinery and quiet desperation. For Yarlon Rowe, that hum was his entire world. At 27, or at least, that's what the biochip in his wrist claimed, he was just another grease-stained mechanic. A ghost in the machine, patching up the city's aging fleet of freighters and sputtering drones. His hands were calloused from mending metal, but his mind was a smooth, unnerving blank before the age of 12. He'd lie awake in his cramped hab pod, the glow of neon signs painting shifting colors on his ceiling, and try to remember a thirst pet. The taste of a birthday cake, his parents' faces. Nothing, just a hard cutoff, a wall of static. Here in Vera, this wasn't as strange as it sounds. Memories were the ultimate commodity, the city's truest currency. People bartered away their pasts to settle debts or buy a moment of pleasure. First heartbreaks were sold to poets for inspiration. Childhood games were bought by the nostalgic rich, and even deep traumas were offloaded to thrill seekers. A memory broker on every corner could turn your life into credits. But Yalain knew with a certainty that chilled him to the bone that he had never made that trade. He wasn't the type. He cherished what little he had. No, his past hadn't been sold. It had been stolen. It was a void inside him, a phantom limb that ached with a sense of profound loss. Who was he before the mechanic? Who had he been meant to become? The questions echoed in the empty spaces of his mind unanswered. One humid evening, the air thick with the smell of ozone and recycled water, Yalen was elbow deep in the guts of a cargo skimmer. The machine had been complaining, its engine whining a high-pitched protest, as he navigated the labyrinth of wires and coolant pipes. His fingers brushed against something small and cold, wedged behind a power conduit. He pulled it free. It was a memory vial, standard issue, but its surface was cracked, the internal light flickering weakly. Most mechanics would have tossed it, another piece of forgotten junk, but a strange compulsion, an almost magnetic pull, made Yalen pause. Out of pure, ingrained habit, the same way he detests a circuit, he brushed his thumb over the vial S sensor pad. The world dissolved. It wasn't a full-blown memory transfer, just a flicker, a single, impossibly vivid frame burned onto the back of his eyelids. He saw a sun-drenched schoolyard, not the metallic grids of Vera, but real grass, green and alive. He saw a small hand, his hand clutching a toy shuttle with chipped red paint. Then a sounder whisper, soft and clear, snaking through the static of the damaged vial. It was a voice calling his name, his own voice, but high-pitched, innocent. The voice of a 5-year-old boy. Yalen stumbled back, his head slamming against the skimmer's bulkhead. The clang of metal echoed the sudden, violent ringing in his ears. The air left his lungs in a rush. That wasn't just any memory. It was his asterisk. His childhood, a single, stolen second of it, had been bottled, sold, and lost like a dropped coin in the grimy mechanics of the city he called home. He stared at the cracked vial in his trembling hand, the faint light now extinguished. The realization hit him like a physical blow. Someone hadn't just taken his memories, they had taken his life, repackaged it, and cast it adrift. The question wasn't just who, it was why. Why go to the trouble of stealing the past of a nobody, a simple mechanic? What could possibly be hidden in the forgotten years of a child that was worth such a violation? The void inside him was no longer just an absence. It was a mystery, a conspiracy he was now standing at the very edge of. His first instinct was to run, to throw the vial into the abyss below Vera, and forget he ever found it. The powerful people who traded in memories did untake kindly to those who poked around in their business. But the image of the toy shuttle, the sound of his own young voice, it was an anchor. For the first time, he had proof. He wasn't just a man with a faulty memory. He was a man who had been erased. And he was going to find out who held the eraser. He tucked the dead vial into his pocket, the cracked glass a talisman against the fear creeping up his spine. His workshop, once a refuge, now felt like a cage. Every drone that whizzed past his window, every shadow in the alleyways below, seemed to be watching. He knew the memory brokers had networks everywhere. They had eyes and ears in every sector. He was alone, with no resources and no allies, just a single broken clue. His first stop had to be the underbelly of the memory market, a place known as the Echo Bazaar. It was a chaotic, dangerous place where unlicensed brokers dealt in fragmented, corrupted, and often stolen memories. It was a long shot, but if anyone knew the origin of a black market vial, it would be them. He put on a hooded jacket, trying to blend in with the nocturnal crowds that shuffled through Vera's lower levels. The city he knew by day, a place of work and routine, transformed at night into a different beast. One that preyed on secrets and desperation. As he descended, the air grew thicker, the neon lights giving way to flickering holads, and the shadows grew longer. In the Echo Bazaar, hushed whispers were the currency of information. He found a broker, a wiry woman with eyes that seemed to see right through him, and showed her the vial. She sneered at its cracked state, but paused when she scanned its faint residual signature. "This is old tech," she rasped. "High grade, not the usual street-level junk. This came from the top, from the archives of a corporation, maybe even a government project. You're fishing in a very deep, very dark ocean. Friend," she wouldn't say more without a hefty paymenter memory of his own. The irony was bitter. To find his past, he'd have to start giving away his present. He refused, offering credits instead, but she just laughed. The information had a price, and it wasn't monetary. He left with less than he hoped, but with one crucial piece of the puzzle. This wasn't a random act of theft. It was professional. It was organized. His search led him down a rabbit hole of corporate espionage and forgotten city projects. He learned of a failed initiative from 15 years ago called Project Chimera, an attempt to create perfect soldiers by wiping their memories and implanting new ones. The project was officially shut down, deemed a failure, its data supposedly destroyed. But what if it wasn't? What if a few subjects, a few children, had slipped through the cracks? The name Chimera sent a jolt through him. In the corner of his workshop, he had an old, half-dead maintenance drone he'd nicknamed Chimera for its mismatched parts. He'd salvaged it years ago. On a whim, he powered it up, digging deep into its corrupted and fragmented log files, something he'd never bothered to do before. And there, buried under layers of corrupted data, he found it. A flight path log dated 15 years ago. It detailed a single unauthorized trip from a high-security corporate spire to a remote orphanage on the city's edge. The same orphanage Yolan had been discharged from at the age of 12. It all clicked into place. He wasn't just a victim of a memory thief. He was a survivor of Project Chimera. His childhood wasn't sold for credit. It was systematically erased as part of a horrifying experiment. He was a blank slate, a failed product, discarded and left to be a mechanic in the city that had created him. But why leave him alive? And were there others like him? The cracked vial was no longer just a clue, it was a key to unlocking not only his own past, but potentially a massive corporate conspiracy that Vera's elite would do anything to keep buried. Yalan looked at his grease-stained hands. They weren't just the hands of a mechanic anymore. They were the hands of a man who was about to take a wrench to the entire system, to dismantle the machine that had tried to erase him. His name was Yalan Rowe, and he was finally ready to remember who he was. The hunt had just begun.